I'm 103 years old, and I'm about to tell you something your parents never will, something your therapist won't say, something every self-help book carefully avoids. They don't say it because it hurts too much to. But I didn't learn this at 90, not at 80. I first brushed against it when I was 33 years old, and it took me 70 more years to understand what life was trying to show me. It was October 14, 1955, a Friday. I remember the date because that weekend my husband Robert and I were supposed to go dancing. We'd been married 8 years. We had 2 little boys. Robert worked long shifts at the steel mill, but every morning before leaving, he'd kiss my forehead and say, "See you tonight, Dorothy." Except on that Friday, he never came home. There was an accident at the mill. They told me it was quick. They always say that, don't they? Quick, peaceful, as if those words could soften the blow. But here's what they never tell you. When someone dies suddenly, they don't just take their life with them. They take all your unsaid words, too. Every "I love you" you meant to say later. Every apology you postponed. Every moment you were too distracted, too irritated, or too busy to be fully there. That night, sitting alone at my kitchen table, I made a promise. I promised I would never waste another day. I promised I would live with intention. I promised I would love people while I still had the chance. And do you know what happened? I broke that promise almost immediately. Oh, I thought I had changed. I hugged my boys tighter. I said I love you more often. From the outside, it looked like growth. But life has a quiet way of pulling you back into old habits. I remarried. I went back to work. The boys grew up. Responsibilities piled on. Slowly, without noticing, I slipped back into rushing through my days. I told myself I had learned my lesson, but I hadn't, because surviving a tragedy does not automatically transform you. The real danger isn't that life is short. Everyone knows that. It's on greeting cards and throw pillows. The real danger is that you will forget. I married again in 1958. His name was Charles. Gentle, patient, kind. We spent 42 years together before his heart finally gave out. And my greatest regret from those 4 decades isn't the arguments we had. It isn't the financial struggles or the hard seasons. It's the ordinary Tuesday nights I spent folding laundry when I could have been sitting beside him. The walks I postponed. The conversations I half listened to. The moments I treated as if they would always be there, because one day they weren't. And here's what nobody tells you about living a very long life. You don't just lose people once. You lose them again and again in your memories. Each time you think back, your mind quietly highlights another moment you rushed through, another conversation you only half heard, another hug you shortened because you were in a hurry. And here's what nobody tells you about living a very long life. You don't just lose people once. You lose them again and again in your memories. Each time you think back,
Your mind quietly highlights another moment you rushed through, another conversation you only half heard, another hug you shortened because you were in a hurry.
Those small moments begin to echo louder than the big milestones ever did. At the time, each choice felt harmless, reasonable even. After all, there would be more evenings, more walks, more chances. That's what I believed. But memory is cruel in a way I didn't expect.
Because years later, it's not the big mistakes that haunt you. It's the small moments you treated like they didn't matter. Then came another loss that carved this lesson even deeper. My son William died in 1987. Cancer. He was only 45. I was 65. I sat beside his hospital bed holding his hand, trying to memorize everything, the shape of his fingers, the sound of his breathing, the way time suddenly felt thick and fragile in that room. And then he said something I will never forget. He looked at me and whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry I didn't call more." In that moment, something inside me broke open, because all I could think was, why do we always wait until the end to realize what mattered? Why do we apologize when the clock is already running out? I wanted to tell him none of it mattered. I wanted to rewind years and fill them with ordinary phone calls and small check-ins. But time, I have learned, is the one thing that never negotiates. So instead, I squeezed his hand and I lied. I told him we had plenty of time. We didn't. And even after all of that, even after decades of loss and hard-earned perspective, I wish I could tell you I finally became perfectly present. I didn't. Now, you might be thinking something like this. This is sad, but it doesn't really apply to me yet. I know that thought well. I carried it myself for decades. When you're young, loss feels like something that belongs to the distant future. You understand it intellectually. Everyone dies eventually. But deep down, most people live with a quiet, dangerous assumption that serious regret is something other people end up with, that your life will somehow unfold more neatly, more intentionally. I believe that too, and I'm here to tell you, as gently and honestly as I can, that belief is the trap. Because the real problem isn't that life is short. The real problem is that human beings are remarkably good at slipping back into unconscious living. We drift, we postpone, we tell ourselves harmless little stories. I'll travel when work slows down. I'll call her next week. I'll be more present once this busy season ends. But busy seasons have a strange habit of stacking on top of each other until years quietly disappear. I've watched this happen not just in my own life, but in the lives of nearly everyone I've loved. Let me tell you about my son James. He's 76 now. Every Sunday he comes to visit me. He has done this faithfully for years. And let me be very clear. He is a wonderful son. Kind, reliable, loving,
But here's the part most people won't say out loud. Even weekly visits never feel like enough when you truly love someone. Every Sunday, when he stands up to leave, I watch him walk to his car, and without meaning to, the same quiet thought passes through my mind. Will I see him again? At my age, that isn't dramatic thinking. It's simple mathematics. And before you gently push this aside because you're younger, let me tell you something important. This uncertainty is not reserved for the elderly. Every goodbye you have, even now, carries a possibility you prefer not to think about. You just don't feel the weight of it yet. Not long ago, my great-great-granddaughter, Sophie, came to visit. She's 16, bright, busy, full of the beautiful urgency that comes with being young. She sat beside me on the couch, and for most of the visit, she was looking at her phone. Now, I didn't scold her. What would be the point? I remember exactly what it feels like to believe there will always be more time later. But I also know something she doesn't know yet. One day, maybe many years from now, she will remember that afternoon. And when she does, she won't remember the messages on her screen. She will remember that she was only half there. That is the kind of regret that arrives quietly and stays for a very long time. Because the deepest regrets are rarely about the big, obvious mistakes. You can make peace with those. The regrets that linger, the ones that echo, are almost always about simple absence, being physically present but mentally somewhere else. Treating people you love as if they are part of the background of your life, rather than the center of it. I am not telling you to abandon your responsibilities. Life is busy. I understand that better than most. I am also not telling you to live every moment in some kind of perfect, glowing mindfulness. Human beings don't work that way. We get distracted. We get tired. We forget. I certainly did. What I am asking is something both smaller and harder. Notice when you drift and return. Return your attention to the person in front of you. Return to the conversation that matters. Return to the ordinary Tuesday evening that feels forgettable right now. Because those ordinary moments, the quiet ones you almost skip past, are the ones that will one day glow the brightest in your memory. I have been alive for more than 37,000 days, and if I am painfully honest, I was fully, completely present for only a small handful of them. That is my real regret. Not that I didn't earn more, not that I didn't travel more, but that I sleepwalked through so many perfectly good moments with people I loved deeply. So before you scroll away from this, before another busy day picks up speed, take one quiet breath and ask yourself, where am I sleepwalking right now? Today, do one thing slightly differently. Call someone you've been meaning to call. When someone speaks to you, put your phone down, face down, for the length of the conversation. Sit 5 minutes longer than usual beside someone you love.
These actions are almost embarrassingly small, and that is exactly why they work. Big, dramatic life changes are rare. Ordinary moments, however, are everywhere.
At 103, I am not afraid of the end of my life. I have had more days than I ever expected. What I feel more than anything is clarity. Clarity about what mattered, clarity about what didn't, and clarity about how surprisingly small the difference is between a life that feels full and one that feels half-lived. It is rarely about the big decisions. It is almost always about whether you were truly there for the small moments you were given. So when you finish listening to this, think of someone who would be quietly happy to hear from you today, and reach out.
Because I am telling you with everything I have left to say, later is a story we tell ourselves. The people you love are living their ordinary moments beside you right now, and one day, much sooner than you think, those ordinary moments will be the ones you wish you could step back into.
Don't wait 70 years to learn what I learned. Start today, while later still feels like a promise, because from where I'm sitting, later has a way of never arriving.